In this video, I'm going to be showing you the KBO Breeze. Now, admittedly, this is not a typical bike that I review on my channel. My channel, if you're familiar with it, is mainly focused on mountain biking and gravel. But if this video can help someone enjoy two wheels, then I'm all for it. So this is not only an e-bike, but it's got one really cool feature that I've actually had a lot of fun with, and that is it has a throttle. So yes, you can go for hours and hours on this bike without even pedaling, and I'll talk more about that as I get into the review. Before I show the bike up close, let me just talk about what kind of bike this is. So this is, like I said, it's an e-bike. It's kind of a townie bike, an in-town commuter bike. You can use it for other type of commuting, more of country roads and dirt roads, which I've done on this bike. Now, I also reviewed the KBO Hurricane, which was more of a flat bar style commuter bike, single speed belt drive. This one has gears and the throttle, but the Hurricane was more of a leaned over riding position, probably more for someone who's used to riding mountain bikes or road bikes and wants kind of an agile flat bar bike. This one's more of a comfort style bike. It's got bigger tires, it's got a rack, it's got a nice comfortable seat, it's got higher bars, but I've actually really enjoyed riding this. As I show the bike, I'm going to talk about some of the features of it. So let's first of all talk about the frame. So this is an alloy frame, and it's actually a pretty stiff, really decent quality frame. It's got some good welds. Now, I did find this frame a little harsh on rough roads, and I took this thing on roads that most people will not probably use, so dirt roads with potholes and washboards, but it's got a really nice sturdy rack. So this rack, I mean, just trust me, it's kind of hard to see in the video, but it is really solid. This bike comes about 90% assembled, so you take it out of the box, put the fenders on, put the front tire on, hook up the lights, and you're pretty much good to go. So it has a nice set of fenders on it. Both the front and rear tire are 2.4 inches wide, so a lot of cushion, a lot of plush. So it's a really comfortable, stable bike. Like I said, it does have gears, so it comes with a Shimano drivetrain. So it's got a 7-speed rear cassette, Shimano Altus rear derailleur. And this bike does come with a water bottle cage that mounts underneath. It does include pedals. It also includes a multi-tool, which is a nice addition, just like the KBO Hurricane. Like I said, the saddle is a nice, comfortable saddle. Not a typical saddle that I would use, but I actually commuted to work on this thing in my flip-flops. So, it's a different style of riding for me, but with the throttle, which I'll talk about here in a few minutes, you can really have a lot of fun on this bike. Another nice addition to this bike is the fact that it has front suspensions, and it actually is fairly plush. It's a fairly smooth fork. You're not going to be able to take this thing on gnarly mountain bike trails, but for hitting, bumps around town, sidewalk bumps, little potholes, things like that, it definitely takes the edge off. I actually really like the Shimano shifter. So it's rear shifting only, and to go into an easier gear, you'd hit this button and then hit this button to release it into a harder gear. The battery on this bike is removable, and it comes with a key. So all you do is you put the key in there, turn it, and then you pull this handle and the battery releases sideways, which is nice for putting it on a bike rack. So e-bikes can be very heavy. This bike's about 60 to 65 pounds. So if you're putting it on a bike rack, you probably want to remove the battery. Also, if you're locking it up in an area that's not too secure and you just want to make sure no one steals your battery. This bike does come with a kickstand, which is pretty appropriate for this style of bike. Now, I did actually lose one of the bolts. Like I said, I took this thing on some pretty bumpy roads. And by the way, when I was on the bumpy roads, you can hear the battery bounce around a little bit. It's not too bad. It's like the KBO Hurricane. I mentioned that before. This bike comes with mechanical disc brakes that are actually very powerful. So both front and rear have mechanical disc brakes, and so you get plenty of stopping power when the roads are wet. All right, had to move this review to a drier location. It was starting to rain. So the handlebars are, like I said, more of an upright style. It's very comfortable. The bike is pretty agile when you're riding it. The grips are pretty cool. It's kind of this faux leather. I doubt these are real leather, but it's got some stitching, so it's got a little style to them. Really comfortable, kind of those flat grips at the top. So like I said, super comfortable bike to ride. A really nice bike just to get around town, go run some errands, commute to work. just get out, ride with the kids, whatever you want to do on this style bike. This bike comes with a headlight and also a rear tail light that's also a brake light. And I'll show that here in a minute. Let me first of all show you how to turn this thing on. You've got your controller up here. You're going to hold down the middle button for a couple seconds. The bike will power on. You've got your battery indicator. This is your speedometer. This is your odometer. This is the level of pedal assist. So this bike has 5 levels of pedal assist. So when you turn on, it'll be on level 1. And then to go up, of course, you just hit the plus button up to number 5, back down to number 1, and you can go to 0 so that you have no pedal assist. To turn on the lights, you would hold down the plus button for about 2 or 3 seconds. The lights will come on. And then, like I said, you've got a rear tail light. And then when you squeeze the brake levers, the rear tail light's going to blink to indicate to people behind you that you are braking. And to turn off the lights, you would just hold the plus button down for a couple seconds. And when the lights are on, there is a backlight to the control so you can see this when it's dark. And the front light is decently bright, by the way. If you're wanting to get into some serious night riding, I would recommend getting a dedicated bike light that's at least 800 to 1,000 lumens. But this one's decent, and I even use lights when I'm riding in the daytime just so cars can see you. Let's talk about what it's like to ride the KBO Breeze. So this is a pretty powerful e-bike. The Hurricane that I reviewed did not accelerate super quickly. It was a lower powered e-bike, which I didn't really mind. You know, if you don't want the bike to do all the work for you, that's a nice option. But this one is a bike that if you have it on the top pedal assist, number 5, you barely have to turn the pedals and this thing's going to go. Now, I'll just throw it in here that you need to be careful about that. If you're newer to riding, newer to e-bikes, that kind of thing, you need to be careful with it on a higher level of pedal assist, because if you have the bars turned sideways and you start to go, you can lose control of the bike. So it's a pretty powerful e-bike. So this one goes about 20 to 21 miles per hour with the throttle. And by the way, when you use the throttle, this is your throttle, when you use the throttle, the bike is going to go full speed no matter what. So even if you have it on level 1 pedal assist, the throttle is going to get up to 20 to 21 miles per hour. Now the speedometer says 22, but I used a GPS and it was more like 21 miles an hour. But this thing will go for a while. So my son loves riding this bike, and he joined me on a gravel ride. So I did an hour gravel ride after work a week or 2 ago, and he went with me, and he had tweaked his ankle, so he didn't want to pedal. So he used the throttle the entire time. I was going between 17 to 20 miles an hour the entire ride. He kept up with me. In fact, he could have pulled away from me when I was going 17 or 18 on the gravel roads. But we did a 1-hour ride, and he only lost 1 or 2 of the levels of battery, which has 6 levels. I took this bike to work. I just absolutely had a blast commuting in my flip-flops to work, and you know, on the way to work I used the throttle just to see what it was like, and you know, I got to work faster than I did if I was riding my gravel bike, which is what I usually ride. And then coming home, you know, I pedaled a little bit more, but I really enjoyed riding this bike to work. By the way, another nice safety feature on this bike is the reflective strips on the tires. So it's hard to see in the video in the daytime, but at night, these things are very reflective. So if you've got a car coming from the side, these strips will really increase your visibility on this bike. So that is a KBO Breeze. A really fun bike to ride. I mean, like I said, it's not a typical bike that I would add to my fleet, but the addition of the throttle has just been a blast to ride. Just taking out around the neighborhood at night and listening to the cicadas, which are probably killing the audio of this video. But yeah, you know, if you're looking for a bike to, you know, like I said, get around town, maybe you want to pedal, maybe you want to take it easy that day, this is a really nice option, one that, you know, for 1,500 bucks, by the way, that's how much this one costs. For 1,500 bucks, the quality of this thing is really decent, and the addition of the rack and lights and all that makes for a really good bike for the money. So yeah, that's the KBO Breeze. Thanks for watching.